This episode is brought to you by Redfin. You're listening to a podcast, which means you're probably multitasking. Maybe even scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving homes without expecting to get them. But Redfin isn't just built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. With agents who close twice as many deals, when you find the one, you've got a real shot at getting it. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Halliday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Halliday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Halliday. Halliday, bring it on.
Your favorite local grocery stores like Kroger, Ralph's, Fred Meyer, and more are now delivering on Uber Eats. Get 40% off your order of fresh, quality ingredients. Whether you just got home to an empty fridge or suddenly got a craving to whip up something new, you can get everything you need delivered in as little as 25 minutes. Get 40% off your order with code Kroger2026. Plus, members get $0 delivery fees. Order now on Uber Eats. Orders of $30 or more save up to $25. Ends 4/30/26. See app for details.
Hey, everybody. Anybody a fan of the movie Scream? Woo! Right. We've got 2 different people here that have played Ghostface. Feel free to both introduce yourselves.
Lee Waddell, actor,
Tony Cecere. I was the stunt coordinator.
Tony's my boss. Right, he's the reason I got on 1 and 2 actually, and so Tony and I go way back. We my first film, I don't think it was my first film with Tony, but it was first film with Tony and Wes was Nightmare 1. What was that? 1984? Yeah, so a minute or 2.
Yes. Okay. And on Scream, I was the stunt coordinator on it, and the reason that I did Ghostface was we had one guy that did Ghostface for one day, and next day he had another big job. He went off onto his other big job. The footage was fogged, so we had to reshoot it over again. Production wouldn't allow me to put a stunt guy on for the full length of the show, so I had to stand on an apple box and kill Kenny in that one particular shot. And what was interesting about what happened on that show, Wes and I would sit down at lunchtime and try to figure out how we were going to kill people. We couldn't slit everybody's throat because it got to looking the same. That's when I was telling Wes that I said, I remember a show when I was a kid where a mafia guy was sitting in a movie theater and he ended up taking his switchblade, sticking it on the seat and back, and then kicking it through it and killing the guy in front of him. Wes says, well, that's a good idea. He said, let me think about it. So next day he came back, and that's how I came up with the idea in the bathroom scene, tapping on the bathroom and that.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, see? There you go.
Now, Anthony, I think I saw that you've set yourself on fire a couple times as well in films. Is that true?
No, I did. One year I did 28 fire burns. I started out with Wes Craven on Swamp Thing, and Adrienne Barbeau was on that show, and she was married to John Carpenter, so she told John Carpenter about me, and that's how I got the job on The Thing. And after The Thing, I got Stay Puft, and goes on to various other fire burns. The thing of it is I could make it look like a realistic person on fire. I could do a fire burn, just 2 sets of clothing. And on Nightmare on Elm Street, I did a stairfall on fire, which no one's ever done that before or since.
Yeah, I don't think we have, huh? Yeah, I hadn't seen a fire stairfall since then.
It's a weird thing to be known as like the go-to set on fire person. How do you feel about that in the grand scheme?
I've actually got pictures out there where I'm with Madonna on That Girl, where she knocks me over a counter, in a couple of Star Trek shows that I've done to prove people that I do stuff other than fire. Lee has helped me set up to do a couple of burns.
Yeah, we've done a bunch of fires.
Which ones? I don't remember.
I don't remember.
They all run together after a while.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a half dozen. Obviously, the famous one is the the stair and the fire burn in Nightmare 1, right? You guys all remember that. And so I set that one up, and your setup guy is really important, right? Because actually I'm the one who's putting the fuel on them and all that stuff, and that one got big fast. And then it was years later, I had Tony. I mean, Tony's always been my setup guy, and we were doing a no budget. God, I can't remember what was the name of that one. It was on fire at night off the building in Hollywood. I can't remember the name. I think it was like internal combustion or something like that. So, anyways, Tony paid me back after I got so crazy with him on a Nightmare. So we were maybe 5 years later. I can't remember. And he was my setup guy on that one. And the fire was so radical that when I left the building, it was 4 or 5 stories. As I fall, I'm about halfway down, and the tail of the fire just leaves the building. Big old on-fire lawn dart. And I look at the footage later, I'm like, thanks, Tony. He's like, well, pay me back. Yeah.
Well, your safeties are important because we don't all use the same sign for someone to put us out. I never use a voice command for somebody to put me out because, like in the show The Soldier, I'm actually crawling across the street on fire, hollering, save me, save me, save me. So I always use hand signals to put someone out. So I had one of my shows where it was called Exterminator, where 2 of us were on fire, and we go running down an alley on fire, and I go down and signal for my safeties to put me out, and they didn't put me out. They waited for the director to holler cut, and that's the only show they ever worked with me for. Lee's worked with me from then on.
Yeah, I mean, we've been together since early 80s.
Yeah.
Let's call it 82. That's about right.
So you've definitely done stunt stuff for all different types of projects. I am curious, what are like the big differences between coordinating stunts for, a small, low budget film versus your bigger budget? Does that affect the stunts team?
Oh, definitely. I love the lower budget pictures because lower budget pictures, you're allowed to come up with new ideas and think about it. You do a big budget picture, they say this stunt's got to be done then, and it's got to be finished by then. Where a lower budget show, a good instant was on a lot of Wes's shows that started out as lower budget shows. You could go to Wes and give him an idea, and you were allowed to run with it and do it. He would say in the script, I would get this as a stunt coordinator. You're usually about the 6th person to get the script, and you read through it, and you decide what's going to be a stunt and what you're going to need doubles for, and who you're going to double. Then you go to the director and try to convince him who you're going to use and what stunt it's going to be. And with Wes, when we did. I'm trying to think of the name of the show. I want to say Last House on the Left or Hills Have Eyes. It was. There's one where the guy gets the actor has this styrofoam rock that falls on him, and he falls to the ground. And I told Wes, I said, I think we should use a stunt guy for that. Wes says, no, I'm going to see his face. I'd rather let the actor do it. I said, okay. He overrode me, so the actor did it. When the actor got hit by the rock, he shut his eyes and fell on the ground and didn't see where he was going. He got a black eye. So for the rest of the show, we had to do another scene where when the actor gets off the bus, he turns away from camera and says, oh, the sun's kind of shining today. I guess I'll wear sunglasses. So the rest of the show, he wore sunglasses. And after that, Wes Pritting, when I said, I think we need a stunt double here, he would go along with it.
So one of the things that we're going to probably tackle both in this panel and the panel after this, we're doing Friday the 13th Part 2 with Jerry Wallace. When people think about movies, and specifically horror movies where there's a person in a costume, I think the general thought is, yeah, there's just one guy that's in that costume the whole movie. And when you get a little bit deeper into it, there could be 7 or 8 different people who are in that costume. How many different people and components for Scream do you think made up Ghostface when you factor in voice work and actor work and stunt work and all of that?
Well, I know for a fact on Scream 1 and Scream 2, there were 7 different people playing Ghostface, and the reason production wouldn't put anybody on contract for the whole show, so I was left with getting people to do this one. Lee got some of the good iconic parts with killing Drew, killing Henry Winkler, and then all of a sudden they'd say that's the end of the stunts for that day. So they might go off and get another job that would last for a week or something. So then I'd have to bring in another guy. But then there was the guy doing the voice. That was another one.
Roger.
And I don't know who did after Wes. I only did the shows that Wes Craven was part of. Yeah. After that, there were, you know who did the other ones in, I don't know what number are they up to now?
So the unofficial rule between all the Ghostfaces, and I say that from an actor stunt guy, if you put the mask on and you killed somebody, you're Ghostface. If you put the mask on and they either drive by, shut up. Tony killed Kenny. He's a Ghostface. But yeah, I mean, there's probably 7, I think. And not all the guys killed everybody, but there was probably 7 on Scream 1, and I did the first half of that film, and then a stunt double came in. And then Scream 2 was kind of the same way. That was really me and Alan for most of that. Yeah. But yeah, and Wes was notorious, just like that stunt that you did. You had to go and stand on the apple box.
Yeah.
If you recall that, I think I was traveling or I was on hold. Because I remember you like, oh, I just killed him. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, why didn't you just call me? I would have showed up. Because I was on a hold, I think. I think that's how that went down.
Yeah.
Or I had just finished up the show and I was traveling that day or something. So yeah, I mean, out of the whole franchise, out of 7 films come February, right? Yeah. I bet you there's probably at least 3 or 4 Ghostfaces per franchise, per film. Yeah.
It wasn't Avery's son one of them?
Yeah, he did.
And one of them.
Brockton did one. Alan, me, you, Dane, Kurt, Chris. So
Kurt Bryant.
Yeah.
And what they do in a lot of the horror pictures, the way they do that is they can get Kane Hodder was one. He was used to doing all of the Jasons, I think. Is that what King was?
Yeah, he was.
All of the Jasons like that. And, he was such a big guy that a lot of times you couldn't get a guy to double him. And why producers do that, so they can put somebody else in the face if you start holding them up for more money or something like that. There's not usually a named person behind it. I mean, with Nightmare on Elm Street, with Robert, it was a little different. But what a lot of people don't realize, if you time it out, I think that someone was telling me Robert's only in the movie 7 minutes. But then if you take out the fire burn that I did, you take out coming through the mirror, and you take out getting hit going over the railing, and you take out the part of going down the hallway with his hands stretched out, Robert might have only been in the movie 5 minutes. But I think that's what made the movie so big too, that he wasn't there all the time, that in your mind you were seeing him in all the shots even though he wasn't there. But Scream was the same way too. I mean, some of the guys that did Ghostface were right-handed, some of them were left-handed. It was the idea you couldn't tell which actor you were thinking which actor was in it. Right. We were trying to keep
think about it. Was it Billy or Stu? Right? And technically we shot that in sequence.
Yeah.
Right, which never happens. So that day one, scene one, take one with Drew and I, that was like the beginning of the show, and everybody was still piling in. Skeet and Matt hadn't even got up there yet.
Now here's an interesting one on that one. I told Lee he had to break this breakaway window in a car, and I said, Lee, I got a pair of the police gloves that have powdered lead in them, so when you put them under your black gloves, no one will ever see it. In case the squib don't go off, you still have your hands protected. Lee said, nah, I'll do it. Wouldn't you know the squib didn't go off? He hits a window wide open with nothing on his hand but his knuckles. And he had to do it over a second time. This time the squib went off and the window broke.
Yeah, that was a rough night. That was Scream 2 when we were doing all the car sequences. Right? Remember I kicked the detective's ass and break the window, all that stuff, and then jump the car. Yeah, Nev stepped on my balls. Yeah, that's night. Yeah, that was a long night.
Anthony, when you're doing the coordinating and you have, like you said, maybe 6 or 7 different people who are going to put on that Scream mask,
You don't plan on it that way. You plan on one.
Yeah.
But even for every actor that you have a double, you have a backup of idea. If all of a sudden the double that was doubling Nev or whoever the actress was couldn't make it, had a bigger job. If all of a sudden they got a job that lasted for 2 months in the Philippines, they were gone. You had to get somebody else. So you always tried to have a couple backup names, people that were the same size that you can make them look like the actress.
Well, you almost already answered the question I was going to ask, which was, is there thought being put into, like, this person's really good for falling down stairs, this one's really good for going through windows, or is it just who's here today that can fit the costume and do,
it's not always
like,
who's
be a
here.
utility player, essentially?
It's not always who's here, because all of a sudden, if you have high falls, there's not that many guys out that can do high falls. Lee's one of them. If you got driving to do, maybe some of them were born and raised in New York and don't even have driver's license.
Yeah, right.
I want to also throw it to the audience. If anyone has a question, feel free to just pop up a hand and we'll pause the conversation, throw to you guys. But is there anything that you think is a misunderstood thing tied to stunt work in the grand scheme of things?
Oh, yeah. There were a lot of people think that we try to take as much of the danger out of it as we can, because they don't just pay you to do stunt work. They pay you also to be able to get up and do it a second time. If something happens, you got to do it a second and a third time. So when you see someone falling down a flight of stairs, they're usually wearing elbow pads, knee pads. Now, when I did the show, People Under the Stairs, I think I had 6 stair falls in here. I tried to make them all different. One guy would go backwards, one sideways. The worst one was the girl. She had to fall down with no elbow pads or no knee pads. Women have it tough in the stunt industry because so often they can't hide their pads like the guys can.
What's the, what's considered like a lot of takes for a specific stunt?
2.
1.
2's a lot. Yeah.
2's a lot, yeah. There's a few that I didn't have number 2 in me.
Now on, say, Ghostbusters, I had 3 takes on that. The first take was, they told me I didn't need to wear a fire suit inside Stay Puft, so I said, no, I feel better wearing it. The first take on that, the head split open and the inside of the head caught on fire. So we had to do it over again the next day, and they only had 3 outfits. The next day we did the fire burn. After they looked at the footage, the fire was too big. It made Stay Puft look small. So we had to do it a third day where we brought the fire down to a smaller size so he would look that big on the screen. And then Rambo First Blood was another one. I had 2 takes on that. They put me in this cane field on fire, and they said, we can't get the cane to burn, so don't worry about it. Well, the day before they were shooting in elephant grass, and the Americans didn't know the difference between elephant grass and sugar cane. So when they lit me on fire, the whole field took off and burned up, and all I could hear is my safety saying, we can't get to him, we can't get to him. Well, I had already planned if I had to, I just rolled over and over till I got out of the field, and they put me out. So and I was spent another 2 weeks in Acapulco while they pulled up all the burnt stubs and put other stubs in the ground to shoot it over again a second time. The second time they watered the whole field down so it wouldn't catch on fire.
How were you feeling when you got that third phone call that they were going to set you on fire again as Stay Puft?
I was on the set, that's they looked at the footage and said, the fire flames are too big, But none of them were my fault, so they had to pay me all 3 times to do it. If I would have screwed up and say didn't climb the building right or whatever, that would have been on me. How they stunt people get paid is according to how difficult and how dangerous the stunt is. As stunt coordinator, you look at it and you say, well, this girl's got to fall down a fire escape, so she would get more than a stunt guy that had to fall down a set of stairs that had carpeted all the way down them.
Let's say someone in the audience is thinking, I want to get into the stunt work. What advice would either of you have for that?
Stunt bad. So.
Get into computers.
Yeah, AI programming is really good.
I mean, when we first started, I tell everybody, when we first started, if you had a person climbing a waterfall, you would use piano wires and try to hide him going up a waterfall. So in case he fell, he had a safety measure. Nowadays, you can put a big purple rope on him and just go and tell the computer afterwards to take out all the purple, and it's not there. So it makes it a lot easier to hide safety stuff in.
Yeah, it's a lot more practical.
Yeah.
A lot more practical.
But still, AI is, they were shooting, when I got out of the business, starting to shoot stunt guys, falling down a flight of stairs with 200 ping pong balls all over their body. Well, we found out later that's so a computer can go in and take that person out and put any person they want to in on that scene.
That's the beginning of motion capture.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always think of the infamous Texas Chainsaw Massacre story in 1974. Gunnar Hansen said he was reading the script and he read that on the last page he falls and the chainsaw is supposed to cut his leg off, and he asked Toby, how are we going to do that? And he said, don't worry about it. That's one of the last things we're going to film. And he says in the commentary track, what I thought he meant was we had plenty of time to figure this out. What he actually meant was, if we accidentally cut your leg off, I've shot the movie and I can still put it out.
Now, I did Texas Chainsaw, the one with Jessica Biel on it, and that was an interesting one because all the chainsaws just had a rubber piece running around them with all the smoke and stuff like that. And it was the worst part is I had to watch all the Texas Chainsaws up to there before we did that one. But Jessica Biel was doing the good girl on television. She wanted to change her image, so she signed to do Texas Chainsaw. I don't know which one, and she was nice and very pleasant to work with.
Do we have any questions out in the crowd?
Yeah, let's go outside. Yeah, what do we got?
What made you start getting into doing stunt work? Like, why did you want to get into it?
Bad decisions. Let's see. So when I came out of high school, which I studied film, right? It was either military or make movies, do stunts, and act, right? And bottom line is, film business paid better than the military business. Both were going to give me adrenaline, but I just chose film instead.
How about you, Anthony?
I ended up moving to California to become an electrician in San Diego. They were on a strike, so I moved up to Los Angeles. I knew you could always find work up there. So I had a job tending bar, and the guys that I knew that were tending bar with me were working out at a gym down in Santa Monica with a bunch of stunt people. So I started working out at that gym with the stunt people, and after learning how to do fights and falls and I got a break. I was on Beretta for a while with Robert Blake, old TV series, and then I went out on my own and started doing stunts, and it starts just by a little bit of stunts here and there. The problem you have in Hollywood is you're competing with a lot of sons and daughters of people that have been in the business for 20 years, so it's hard to break into it in Hollywood. And with me, I looked at, after a couple of years of doing stunts, I looked out and I said, all the actors that I wanted to double are tall and slim. I can't double those. So that's when I started to try to get into stunt coordinating, which is, like I say, reading the script and breaking it down and trying to figure out who you're going to bring in to do certain stunts. I had no intentions. I was not a great athlete in school. Matter of fact, I was just barely getting through school.
Bad decision.
Yeah.
I saw a question over here.
So prior to CGI and AI, back when stunts were just practical, was there ever one that you came across that you felt was an impossible stunt that you pulled off, or it's so impossible that you gave up?
The question is there an impossible stunt that you still somehow pulled off?
No, I did. We followed through with everything. I think the one stunt I was developing for a TV show for World's Record was we were going to recreate a tunnel of fire. And the tunnel of fire stuff, it chewed up a couple of guys. I mean, legitimately burned these boys up. And so Tony and I, since we had so much experience in fire and we knew thermodynamics and the science of fire, we figured out how to do that a lot safer. So if I actually did this attempt, I think we were going to do like 100 yards, which sounds, that's a poke. You're going to be running, right? But then you got to figure, okay, if I'm running, you don't want to do that. You can't hold your breath and run for 100 yards. Good luck, right? So there's all these variables. I think that's the one that we never got off the ground that I really wanted to do.
How about you, Anthony? Was there any impossible stunt that you either did or didn't figure out how to pull off?
It wasn't impossible, but I'm sorry I took the job. And when I took the job, I was getting ready to bail out on the job because I was standing on top of a, 40-story building down in Los Angeles. They had me standing on the edge, and they had cables that were just 3 feet long, and I was supposed to jump off the edge and go down, and I'd only go down 3 feet, and the cables would hold me. Well, I don't like heights that much, and I soundly think I'm thinking the cables are strong and all of that, and just whenever they finally the insurance company came up and said, we're not going to allow that stunt. We don't want anyone standing on the edge of the building. And I was glad. That's the last time I ever took a high job like that.
I had a question. It just disappeared. Is there any other questions out there? Oh, right over there.
Have you ever encountered a particular, it doesn't have to be any particular, but just like an actor that said, like, I really want to do this stuff myself, and was your approach to that more like, no, we need you tomorrow, or like, have at it, Hoss, let's see how you do?
All right, so the question is, have you ever worked with Tom Cruise?
Yeah. So I'm a big proponent of putting the actor in front of the camera in stunts as much as you can within reason, right? Tom gets away with it because he makes a better product, right? And he also gets away with it because he's the producer of the film, right? If he was, that's the only reason, because he's the producer, right? Otherwise he couldn't do that. Insurance wouldn't sign off. So I love putting actors in front of camera within the construct of the stunt. If you're gonna, like, there's no reason they need to roll a car. There's no reason they need to get burned up. There's none of that. But a lot of, I think, good physical acting, fighting and stuff like that, yeah, put that actor in there as much as you can. And some of them, you know, back in the day, they all wanted to do their stunts, right? And Tony and I were good friends with Chuck Norris and his double Kenny Gibson. And Chuck to this day will go, yeah, I did all my own stuff. I'm like, shut up, Chuck. Yeah. So I'm a big proponent of it within reason, but you know what that reason is you know that's your call, and the call of the director and the producers and insurance and even the actor, right?
Most of the time, the stunt person can make it look more realistic than the actor. It's just like throwing punches in that. The actors aren't trained to know how to throw punches from what angle the camera's at and something like that. And a stunt guy knows if you turn him this way, you throw this punch. If you throw him that way, you throw that punch. And they can make it look a lot more realistic. A lot of actors have egos and don't want people to do it. And you know, a lot of them say, like, you can't double me, I'm tall and skinny. And I say, well, Dick Durock on Swamp Thing was 6'6", and nobody, when I was on fire, knew I wasn't 6'6". And I tell them on Terminator, I said, well, back then Arnold and I were about the same size.
Well, especially because you look back at, like, through the history of film in the silent era, those actors were, I mean, Buster Keaton.
Oh, Buster Keaton did all of his own stuff.
Yeah.
Still amazing to see stuff like that. But you think if you were a producer and you were putting up all of your money on something, how much would you let an actor do? Would you let him run across the street and almost get hit by a car? Or would you rather, because you're not seeing his face, or would you rather have somebody else? I mean, it goes back to Wild Wild West when Robert Conrad did a swing on a chandelier across the bar. The chandelier broke and came down and broke his ankle. Everybody there that was on contract stayed on contract till he got well, and they had to go back and finish the shot. So that's what can happen if you let an actor do too much.
So, you know, when you're doing stunt work, you're taking on, like we said, projects big and small. Is there any film that maybe some people here have never heard of because it's a very small film that you have a stunt that you wish more people actually could see because it's maybe not the most mainstream of titles?
Yeah, what was that one? You lit me on fire and threw me off the roof.
I don't remember the.
Somebody go on Google and look up. Go on Google and look up human combustion or internal combustion or something like that. I think they may have changed their name. We were just talking about this the other day when Tony and I got together. There's 2 or 3 films out there that we actually did with Clint, right?
Yeah.
Howard, who's here, right? And I remember one, and there's another one that has this title change. I can't remember what that was or what I did.
You're describing jumping off a roof on fire, and if it's one of the Clint Howard ones, I'm almost wondering if it's like Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 4, where there's definitely a flaming body that goes flying off of a roof to the pavement.
That could be because we did work that show with him.
Could be. Yeah, could be.
I've got one where I did my head on fire, and all I was told is 2 kids are fighting at a gas station. One of them pulls a pump off of it, lights a lighter to it, and sticks it into the other kid's face and catches his face on fire. I've got stills of it, but I have no idea what show that was. You know?
Now I wish I knew because I want to see that. Any other questions out in the crowd? Anyone else? Okay. Oh.
What do you got?
Are there any stunts you guys ever performed that maybe as you perform them, you're like, okay, we've got this done, and then when you see it actually on screen, you're like, that looked way better, like post than you felt when you did it?
Has there ever been a stunt that came out looking even better than you thought in the moment?
The dinosaur stunt, the stuff in Jurassic 2 when I got eaten by the dinosaur looked pretty damn cool. That was a good one. Yeah.
With me, I think it was the stair fall on Elm Street. I had no idea how well it filmed, seeing me roll down sideways. It's actually on YouTube. If you go to the Greatest Stunts Ever Reel 2, it's got that stair fall of me coming down the stairs on fire, which I didn't think it was going to come out as well as it came out.
That's because the fire was so big because of the setup, man.
Yeah.
You were talking about the science of fire when you were talking about the fire tunnel. Do you feel like there is a little bit of, not even a little bit, do you feel like if you're doing stunt stuff, especially the coordinations part, that you need that science mind as well in there to know, okay, this is how this very unpredictable thing will probably act?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's fire science, but then there's also physics, and doing the stuff that we've done over the decades. We're flying guys hundreds of feet on 3 different axes of movement now. We got to know the weights and the times, and it's all computer driven. And so the science behind stunts is immense. Back in the day, these guys would cowboy up and just jump stuff because they just knew how to do it, right? You have that sixth sense. You've jumped things enough to where you're like, okay, I know I'm going to hit this about 40 miles an hour, and I should land about there. And they would go out and, man, you could put a dollar bill down. That's what the guys would do that all the time. We'd put dollar bills down and bet on where they'd hit.
Where the car was going to land from the jump.
Yeah, all the time. So, yeah, the science behind stunts is immense.
Well, it's just like fire. One guy wanted me to change the color of fire on some shows, and I said, well, you change the color on fire, you're also changing the temperature what the fire is. So, and I mix up my own fuel and make it an orangish color so it shows up better. And that was another thing that I did doing my fire burns nobody else did.
I briefly mentioned Buster Keaton earlier, and there's the infamous house fall on him that I feel like to this day still boggles the minds of people. Has there ever been a stunt that you guys have seen where you're just like, how the hell did they do that safely?
Oh, yeah, those old silent movies, because they just went for it. I mean, when you see someone jump off of I think it was the Talmadge brothers, they were acrobatics, and one would jump off of a 2-story building, and he would land on his brother down below. His brother knew how to break his fall. I mean, those were things that were done back in the silent movies. They're just amazing.
Those guys are incredible athletes, And there's stunts that are done, but like I look at film now and stunts, like when I see something that's super incredible, it's either backed up by CG with a bunch of wires. So it doesn't. I don't go, oh, that was nice, unless it's a practical stunt, and I'm like, ooh, that hurt. That was a good gag, right? Or like that was a nice stunt. He walked away, which hopefully, obviously, did. But yeah, there's not too much that in today's modern film that grabs my attention. The joy of making film is that you get to make films. But when I go to a movie now and try to disconnect and not look technically at film,
can't do it.
Really hard to do. I'll be sitting there and we'll be out with a group of people. I'm like, God, that was a good camera move. Yeah. Or oh man, look at that lens, or look at that lighting, and it just wrecks it.
Or you see this old semi coming down, you say, well, that's when they're going to wreck.
Yeah. I think that there's like an actual term for the phobia, but for me, I've watched enough movies where if 2 people are talking in a car, I start to tense up because I'm like, there's going to be a car accident now. Like, something's going to happen.
Fair enough. Yeah. So knowing how to make a movie and then watch a movie is really, it's unpleasant. It takes such a special film now for me to disconnect, right? And just enjoy the film for what it is and not look at it technically. Like I went and saw F1 on IMAX, right? Jerry Bruckheimer, big, huge, blah, blah, blah. And it was a fun movie, but I looked at it totally technical. Big, awesome shots, and they did some great stuff with some very specialized cameras, big Frankenstein camera rigs, and super cool. But I looked at it technically and enjoyed the hell out of it technically. I'm like, God, that was a good camera move, right? I've been with a bunch of people who are just like, shut up. Yeah. I'm not, don't go to the movies with me. It's not fun.
One thing that Wes used to say about movies, he said, when you're making a movie, like say I did I've known Wes Craven for 20 years before he passed away. He used to say, you're actually doing 3 movies. He says, you've got one script that you're trying to do. Then he says, you've got the one that you're actually shooting because some things don't match the script. Then he said, you got the one thing that you're editing. He said, all 3 of them are 3 different movies. If you've seen Serpents in the Rainbow, there's a guy making a coffin at the beginning of the movie. Well, that was really shot for the end of the movie. But by the time they edited, they ended up putting it in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that saying from a few people that a film is written at least 3 times, once by the writer, once by the director, once by the editor.
Yeah, don't forget the producers. They screw it up. I room checked that before I used the fuck word. Sorry. Can we say that?
Yeah, go for it.
So, yeah, it's... That's a truth. That's probably. I mean, I learned a lot of Wesisms hanging out with him and Tony over the years, and that's one of the true ones. Is, it's. I mean, how many rewrites did we see? I saw one of the original drafts from '95, and then probably 3 drafts later.
Every time you get a rewrite, it's in a different color.
It's a different color. It looked like a freaking rainbow.
So you start with a white script, and then next thing they send you blues. So you got to go down and say, oh, this is page 8, tear white page 8 out, put blue page in. Then another couple weeks go by, and the colors come in orange, and then they come in red, and that. And when we did one of the Screams, they did it in a colored one so that people couldn't copy it and put it on the internet.
Red or something like that. So you couldn't put it on the. Yeah, it was some color that you couldn't Xerox without it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked like Dunn Edwards had blown up by the time we were done with some of those scripts.
So I've definitely heard the horror stories of actors like practicing their lines, showing up to film and getting the new color pages of a totally different speech. Does that happen with the stunt stuff, or for safety's sake, do they try to like not change up what you're supposed to do too much on you guys?
Not the stunt, but I actually had in the Soldier. Stunt people are terrible at dialogue, and I had some dialogue on the Soldier, and I had it memorized. I was ready to go. I had to do a fire burn. On the way out to the set, the driver says, did you get the changes? I said, no, I didn't get any change. He said, they changed your dialogue. So, and they changed the dialogue, and it took me forever to get the shot done prior to me doing the fire burn. But they don't usually change the stunt on you. They might change the location on you or something like that. But, you try to make it as safe as you can. Even the Tom Cruise stuff you see, believe me, there was another guy that did it before he did to take as much of the danger out of it as they could.
Yeah, his crew is massive. He's got some of the top dudes in the business that back him up to pull off that stuff that he does safely. He's still hanging it out there, don't get me wrong, but he's got that thing measured every which way to Sunday. But at the end of the day, when you shoot a motorcycle off the cliff, still riding a motorcycle off the cliff.
I think we got time for one more question from the crowd if anybody has one. All right. Well, then, if you guys, where can people go check you out, get autographs, see any of you guys still doing work? What you got in the backlog?
All right. So everybody's here. We're in that room. Come over and see us. I'm going to go over and do photo ops right now.
Okay.
And then Tony's there signing. And then I'll be back over at the table after that. And then con-wise, what do we got coming up? I think I'm going to be at GalaxyCon next month up in Columbus. And then next year's 30th anniversary for Tony and I and Scream, right? 30 years. God, I'm getting freaking old. And so for that year, for the 26th season, I'm going to drag Tony as much as I can and the rest of the Scream team, but we're going to try to do 30 shows for 30 years. Yeah, that's a lot of work.
That is a lot of work.
And then on top of that, films and small stuff and indie movies is what I love doing right now.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's where my wheelhouse is.
I understand they're going to do more on The Thing. I'm kind of curious to see how that's going to come out.
All right.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. Let's give them all a hand.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.